funzionano. Prova, prova. È bruttissimo.
Prova? Prova? È lui che me l'ha chiesto per la registrazione. Che si sente, lo sento anch'io. Prova?
sì. 1, 2, 3, 3. A, B, B, B. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 3. Sì.
I'll be using this one, which is very working. Well, maybe we sit down 1 minute. Hello? Hello? Please sit down. So welcome to this instance of Open IMT. I'm very glad that this time we had as a guest, distinguished guest, Dr. Joseph Sifakis from Grenoble, particularly very mag Grenoble. And let me make a più vicino. How close? This is fine? This is fine? Okay. So, Joseph Sifakis is very well known everywhere, I would say, in the world, due to the fact that he got the Turing Prize Award in 2007 and together with two others, Americans, Ed Clark and Alan Emerson, yes. And however, I would say that the people working in the area of verification and correctness, his name was very well known since a long time. And in fact, he has been the one which believed from the very beginning about a method of proving properties, which is called model checking, and which in the years developed as the most applicable in terms of solving real problems for real industries, companies in various areas. And not only the very beginning and also later, Joseph was able to give the fundamental results, theoretical results on which the technique is based, but also developed the practical aspect of this, both in the sense of developing the tools and in the sense of making the tool strong and easy to use enough to be used in industry, and in finding in application areas for which the approach could actually be used with good results. So the areas are a large number, and like Airbus or France Telecom or ST Microelectronics, so they are several of the basic technologies for computer science, for applications of computer science. And in fact, I would say that the very Mag laboratory has little or no match outside Grenoble, outside France. So from that point of view, from the technological point of view, very Mag is one of the key points of France and Europe. Okay, so, Joseph, please.
Thank you. So, good afternoon. I'll start my lecture.
I will move down there.
Yes. So, I'm going to talk about now it's okay. So, I will talk about the evolution of computer science, and I will try to explain that the focus has been moving for years from programs to systems. I would like to explain the importance of systems in building what I call a smarter world. In this slide, I present the evolution of computer science. Computer science is a young discipline, as you know. The foundations have been laid only in 1936 by Gödel and Turing. And the first computers appeared right after World War II with defense applications, scientific computing. In the 70s, we have the advent of the mainframes, IBM mainframes, the first commercial in the applications, the advent of integrated circuits. In the 80s, you have the convergence between computing and telecommunications. This is a very, very important landmark here, because this opened the way to internet, to the web, to information society, and this has been a very important revolution. And in parallel to this revolution, you have a seamless revolution, what I call the revolution of embedded systems, where I hope you understand what embedded systems are, but I'm going to explain this. These are systems that are hidden in devices, appliances, and I would like to say that 95% of chips are embedded today. So only 5% are used in servers, in laptops, okay? And there are also other anticipated landmarks like, okay, here now we start using multi-core chips, chips that have hundreds of processors, and an important challenge is how to be able to program them, and also the Internet of Things that will be the result of the convergence between embedded systems and the Internet. So to summarize, we have a very fast evolution And this is driven by exponential progress in technology and explosion of applications. And if you ask me what will be computer science in 20 years from now, I don't take a risk. We don't know. The focus is changing. The Barry Center is changing. We are living a very impressive evolution of the discipline. Now, what are the causes of this evolution? One important cause is what people call Moore's law. You probably know that the density of transistors in chips doubles every 2 years or every 18 months. This is called Moore's law, and consequently their computing power doubles exponentially, and you see the evolution of the price of 1 megabyte of memory. This is a slide by ST Microelectronics. It's impressive. And of course, here I stop in 2005, but you have, this has been confirmed over the past 6 years, and it is anticipated that for more than 10 years, Moore's law will hold. So we'll have a computing power for free. Sorry. If you turn off all the mics, but mine. Okay, so where was I? Here. Okay, so you have systems everywhere, and most of them are embedded, as I explained. And there is an important difference between embedded systems and systems you have in laptops or in servers. These are systems that integrate software and hardware that have been jointly and specifically designed to provide services, functionalities, which are often critical. And you see here devices, equipments where you can find embedded systems. A lot of embedded systems you have in an aircraft, you have in a car. In your mobile phone, you have at least 2 processors, two embedded processors. And you can understand in many, many applications. So this is a slide also from ST Microelectronics, because they are selling a lot of embedded devices. So these are figures for year 2008. Each person uses daily about 230 chips. And you see the distribution of these chips per application area. So 80 chips in home appliances, 70 chips in the car, 40 chips at work, etc. Okay, so the important thing in information and communication technologies are system technologies today. They have a tremendous economic, societal impact, and they allow addressing global challenges for growth, health, service, innovation. And this is, in fact, a vision from IBM that I fully share. So they say systems are instrumented. The state of almost everything can be measured, sensed, monitored. They are interconnected, so any place, I mean, you have very strong connectivity, interconnectivity of different points in the planet. And of course, people and objects can interact in many different ways. That's also new. And of course, the systems are intelligent or should be intelligent. This is something I'm going to explain. And of course, if you have intelligent systems, you have enhanced predictability of events and optimal use of resources. So you can have intelligent systems, intelligent networks. You can predict changes of the climate. You can manage your resources efficiently. I'll give examples for this. So this is an outline of my talk. First, I will explain how we went from programs to systems, what are the important differences, say a few words about system design, and how we can design correct systems, and which are the problems that raises correct system design. I'll talk about basic technologies, which technologies will be very important in the future, and emerging applications. about research challenges. So challenges that we researchers have to address urgently, and then I will make some conclusions about computer science as a discipline. So this is the outline of my talk. I will take a bit less than 1 hour, and we'll leave some time for questions. I hope I will have questions. So in the very beginning, we had devices for hand-driven computation. This is very well known. When I was a student, I was using this, for instance. Some of us have been using this. And this is the disk of Antikythera, very sophisticated device that ancient Greeks have been using. Okay, some more recent devices, but you understand what hand-driven computation is. And in the middle of the 20th century, we had two main breakthroughs. One breakthrough is that hand-driven computation have been replaced by electricity-driven computation. Okay, so you have the first computer here and more modern chips here. But the important fact is that now you are doing computation here in the speed of the, okay, almost of the light, or very, very fast. Okay, and this was an important breakthrough. And the other breakthrough, of course, was that, as I said, the foundations have been laid in 36. But we have formalized the mathematics and defined the concepts of algorithms, programs, and we have theory for this. And this is very, very important, okay? Because it's allowed to build the tools, to have compilers, things like that. Okay, now, just to summarize the basic ideas about mechanizing a computation. We have a set of models, mathematical models have been defined, and all the models of computation are equivalent. I mean, there is a concept of universal computation model, Turing's machine. And also another important result that has a deep impact on practice today is that there exist some problems that we don't know how to solve mechanically. And this is one of the, I mean, this is a basic limitation of the discipline of computer science as a discipline, because you know that there are some propositions that are not provable mechanically. For instance, we cannot prove mechanically, we don't have an algorithm that allows to decide if a program terminates, if the variable of a program is bounded, for instance. So there are, we know we have formalized the concept of computation in the form of a machine or an algorithm, but it's important to understand that there are some inherent limitations in computability. Also, another important fact about models of computation is that each problem that admits an algorithmic solution is characterized by its complexity, and it's the amount of resources in time and memory that you need to solve the problem. For any problem, I will need at least some amount of memory and time to solve it. And of course, the same problem can be solved by algorithms of different complexity, but the complexity of a problem cannot be lower than a certain bound. These are very important facts you should keep in mind. Now, to talk about the difference between programs and systems. So a program is a box, takes some input value and produces some output value and computes a function f. So conceptually, it's very easy to understand what a program does. Computes functions, and so it can be characterized by the relation between input and output values. And of course, a program receives an input, takes an input value, makes a computation, and eventually terminates. That's very important. And it computes function, delivers a single result, so it's deterministic. And this can be, the behavior of the program can be understood only by as a mathematical relation. So, and if you write a program, the result you get is independent of the characteristics of the hardware you execute it. So hardware may be slow, may be fast, okay? The important thing is that you eventually deliver a value. And we have a theory of computation for this to understand what programs do, even though we have some limitations. Now a system is something different. It's again a box, but it combines several functions depending on its state, and it continuously interacts with an environment. So in order to understand the behavior of a system, you have to consider histories, sequences of inputs, and sequences of outputs. And what is important is this interaction with the environment. So a system, so I can give examples of systems. You have systems in a lift. You have system is a thermostat. A flight controller is a system. You have systems you have in your mobile phone. They have a non-terminating behavior. I mean, unless you turn off, it will be continuously providing a service. And what is important also to say is that the behavior of systems is in general non-deterministic, and of course it is hardware dependent. Why the behavior of system is hardware dependent? Because if I am, for instance, a system that is a flight controller, and I am too slow, I will lose the control of the aircraft. Okay, so the properties of the system will depend on the speed of execution of the hardware platform. So in many cases, the properties of the system depend on the. Okay. So what's the situation today? We have, for programs, we have fully worked out theories, although they have limitations, as I said. On the contrary, for systems, we have no unified theoretical framework. It's important to understand. Now, what is a system? Sorry, something is missing here. There is yes. So what is a system? I have this box, software and hardware, and I have here a very complex environment. For instance, you want to use systems to control the consumption or the production of resources, in transport systems, telecommunications, health, etc. Okay? So you have complex environments, and what matters, in fact, is this interaction between the system and the environment. You cannot study the behavior of the system independently of the behavior of the environment. And this raises a lot of problems, even hard theoretical problems about how to do that. Okay, so let's talk about system design. So I was explaining that with the advent of embedded systems, we have a break with the traditional systems engineering. So you have the technologies of your laptop, say, and the technologies of embedded systems. And these are quite different. Why? Because embedded systems must meet technical requirements such these requirements. For instance, they must be reactive. A flight controller must be reactive, means that it responds within known and guaranteed delay. And for your laptop, it may happen that you enter a command and it loops for some time, okay? For some reason you don't understand. The embedded systems must be autonomous. Autonomous meaning no manual start because they are hidden. So if you have embedded systems in your car, you cannot reset them easily. If you have a trouble with your laptop, just reset it and restart. Also, what is important is for mobile systems, mobile embedded systems is optimal power management. If the software of your mobile phone was developed as is developed the software of your laptop, the autonomy would have been only of a few hours. Okay? So when, for instance, a company like Nokia or others are writing lines of software or application software, they are very careful about how to write the software and how to implement it, because otherwise this may compromise the autonomy of the mobile. And of course, you have requirements of dependability, scalability, etc. So a long list of requirements. And also, I would like to emphasize the fact that when you design embedded systems that are in mass products, mass market products, you must meet also some economic requirements because the market is much more competitive than the market of laptops, for instance, where you have some monopolistic situation. So when you are designing a mobile phone, you are seeking an economic optimum. You are not seeking the best possible phone, you are seeking an economic optimum. And I would like to say that all these requirements raise a technological challenge to be able to build systems of guaranteed functionality and quality at an acceptable cost. And we have no theory today for doing this. So what's the state of the art today? So today we know how to build two types of systems, in fact. Systems and that have very different characteristics that, okay, so safety or security critical systems of low complexity. Now, what's a low complexity system? Low complexity system is a system of some hundreds, thousands of lines of code. A flight controller, so for A380, perhaps it's 300,000 lines of code. Okay? But for these systems, we know how to guarantee some safety or security. And then we have very complex systems where we take another approach, which is the best effort approach, for instance, in telecommunication systems. So for telecommunication operators, they are seeking some best effort policy, which means that I don't guarantee full availability, and this happens often for mobile phones, because I'm trying to manage in the best possible way, meaning also economically speaking, the available resources. Okay, so for the future, we would like to have cheaper critical systems. So there are many application areas where we could have used critical systems, and for instance, in transport systems, in health also, and they are too expensive. We cannot use them. And of course, another challenge is successful integration of heterogeneous systems of systems. Let me take some time to explain this. Today, you have more than, okay, you have hundreds of milliards of embedded systems over the planet, okay? And each embedded system is producing some service, and you would like to be able to integrate all these services. So you have embedded systems in your car, at home, in your office, and you would like to integrate the services to produce global services. So that's the dream of all the big companies, including, I don't know, Google, IBM, Nokia. Okay, that's a dream. How to integrate, to produce global service and to sell this service. The problem is that when you want to integrate heterogeneous systems, for instance, I have my mobile phone and I would like to make a transaction with my bank. Okay? This is not recommended because, okay, you may be taking some risks. The networks are not secure enough. Okay? And when you make interact a system of low confidence with a system of high confidence, the system of high confidence may be infected somehow. So you have to be careful. So the banking system is supposed to be very, very secure, and when you communicate with the banking system and you open it by the use of mobile phones or internet, this may be dangerous. Okay, so a challenge is how you integrate heterogeneous systems of systems. It's clear that we cannot make any system absolutely secure or safe. So we will have some subsystems that will be absolutely secure and safe, and the problem is how to make them collaborate with less secure and safe systems. Okay, now, just to explain the problems we are facing today with system design, I would like to take an analogy, but also this analogy I think makes sense because embedded systems bring informatics closer to other engineering disciplines that are based on classical physics. So if I am, say, a civil engineer and I want to build a bridge, I have a solid theory. I write down some equations, solve the equations, and I have some recipes about how to build my bridge so that it does not collapse for many centuries with a very high probability. For computer science, we don't have this type of constructivity results. I like this term, constructivity. So constructivity means that I have recipes for doing things correct. Okay? I don't have to verify and come to this problem of verification. So in computer science, we have only partial answers to particular problems. So we have algorithms, we have protocols, but we don't know how to combine all these solutions to particular problems to build big, larger systems. Okay, so I will explain this right after this slide. We have to validate what we are doing, and this is an important difference between computer science and other disciplines. So how we design today large systems in an empirical manner, and it's a risky undertaking. When, for instance, Intel, they design a new processor, a new chip, okay? When some company design a web platform, okay? They are taking some risks, okay? Because the result is not guaranteed, okay? And the difficulties are listed here. You have complexity because systems are built by reusing existing components. The requirements, you have a huge problem with requirements because the requirements are not well understood. They are written in some informal, some natural language, and then you have to translate them into some formal language. But the problem is that the concepts, you see, in physics, it's very simple to say, I want to have a bridge that supports this type of load and this type of forces. This is not as simple for computing systems. And as I said, design approaches are empirical. You have huge teams that have some experience and expertise, and the complex systems are built as extensions of less complex systems. So you have one version of a system, and you build another one, hoping that it will work better. And as I said, the result is not guaranteed. So I think that systems engineering today is at the same stage of development as building cathedrals. The mechanics say in the Middle Ages, okay, building cathedrals in the Middle Ages. So what about the situation today? I think that despite the progress we did over the 50 or 70 past years, so we produced a lot of theory, we have some results that are very, very useful, but I would like to emphasize this, that technology is moving much, much faster than our know-how, okay? So today you have multi-core systems. You don't know how to program. You will need the Internet of Things, okay? We don't have theories about how to do that. And this has been really a problem in computer science because we are really pushed by technology. And here I would like to show a text by Christopher Strachey, who is one of the pioneers of computer science. He was the first to occupy the chair of programming at Oxford University. And so he did both theoretical and practical work at that time. And so he wrote this text for his inaugural lecture at Oxford. At the time he was saying that, okay, he was regretting that there is a gap between a theory and practice. And if you read the text up to the end, you will see that he says, but I am very optimistic because thanks to the work of my group, this gap will be filled. Okay? I cannot say that I am as optimistic as used to be, because I think the gap is increasing, and that's what I will try to show. So this is a danger also for computer science as a discipline, okay? Because we're facing many challenges, and I'm not saying that we are not doing any progress, but the progress is slower than the progress of technology. Now, a few words about, okay, you understand that the key issue here is how to build systems that are correct. What does it mean? Okay, if I want to build a system, I start from this cloud, the requirements. The requirements say, well, I would like to build a satellite system that behaves like that, like that, like that. Okay, so the European Space Agency writes a book, and he finds an industry that will develop the system. So the industrialist will read the book, understand the book before signing the contract, and you understand that the book is written in some technical language, of course, but it's English, okay? It's plain English. And this can be interpreted in many different manners. So this is the expected behavior. Then from this, I'm oversimplifying what happens, of course, just to show where are the main problems. You should write some programs, some software here, from which you should generate some low-level software that will be running on some hardware platform. I'm oversimplifying all this. But the idea is that I start from the cloud and I get the system, the mixed system composed of hardware and software. And in this process, there are two important gaps: how to get from requirements to programs, and of course, make sure that the programs are correct, comply to the requirements, and of course, how to do this. This can be more or less done automatically if the target platform is a simple one. But now for multi-core systems, I don't see how to do that. And of course, this is an important gap. And I hope you understand that system design is different from pure software design and pure hardware design. Now, so what it means that I can design a system that is correct. It complies, it meets its requirements. How I can achieve correctness? Either by construction, because I have some theorems and some theories that, this algorithm is correct, or this architecture is correct. I've proven it once and for all. It's like applying the Pythagorean theorem or something like that. I know how to do that. But these results of correctness by construction we have, as I said, for simple systems, and we don't know how to combine it. So for complex systems, we do that by checking. So you can check. So by checking that the system meets the requirements. Now, either you can build a physical prototype of the system and then test it. So you build a prototype, or you can have a software prototype, a virtual model of the system. And again, here you can do some ad hoc model, or you can try to apply some well-founded approach based on mathematics. And that's what I'm going to explain, just to show you, because I have worked on this, as Professor Montanari explained, for more than 25 years. I will try to explain, what are the problems when you try to apply this approach. Now, so this is the only approach that guarantees rigorousness and to some extent exhaustivity. Okay, so what it means to verify a system. So I will have the requirements. So these are given by the client, say, in the case of the satellite system by the European Space Agency. And I assume that I can have a model of the system that I can build. And the verification method, what it does, it compares the model against the requirements. And the answer here in practice is yes, no, or don't know. Don't know because of complexity limitations or other limitations for those who can understand this. Now, as I said, a problem with requirements is that I should formalize them. Because if requirements remain in English, okay, I cannot do anything. Now, there are people who work on the formalization of requirements, and if I can formalize the requirements, I can use logics to do that. I should be able to check two properties, that they are consistent. They are consistent means that you don't have properties that contradict each other, because at page 1 of requirements, I can say A, and at page 50, I can say not A. Okay, so consistency is that there is no contradiction between the requirements. The other requirement, the other property that one should check, and this is much harder, I don't know how to check this, is completeness. So you write your book of requirements, and you may forget some important property, okay? Because when you play this game, you can add properties, and you don't know when to stop, okay? I don't understand if you figure out how hard it's to achieve this. And of course, my model should be faithful, because if I have a mathematical model of my system, it cannot represent my system in full details, so it should be faithful. It means that whatever property is satisfied for the model holds for the real system. And this is something also not easy to achieve. And of course, the models for complex systems should be generated automatically. I don't get into details. I'm presenting this just to show you the difficulties that raises verification. I would like to discuss the issue of writing correct requirements and to explain this because writing correct requirements is very, very important. First of all, I would like to say that when we write requirements, we should distinguish between requirements that refer to functionality and the requirements that, okay, are what people call extra-functional requirements. Let me consider an example. I think you, okay, you consider here pens. So the functionality of a pen is to draw on a piece of paper. Okay, so this is the functionality that you require from a pen. But then the extra-functional requirements will be that, okay, it will be the quality of the drawing, will be for how long time the pen can be used, etc. So these are the extra-functional requirements. So here I give a list of functional requirements and a list of extra-functional requirements. What I would like to say is that for functional requirements, I know how to express them mathematically. For extra-functional, it's much more different for many reasons. I don't want to go into technical details, but one reason is that these requirements mix properties, combine properties of the program and of the execution platform, of the mixed hardware-software system. Another also fact I would like to explain is that a system, when we build systems, we're sure that it cannot be correct 100%, okay? So even for aircraft or even for nuclear plants. I mean, they say for what they call safety critical systems that the probability is 10 to the minus 9 of error, or I mean of okay, incident per second. Okay? But they accept that there can be an error. So when you design systems, you distinguish. Sorry? yes, okay, I think it's per second, yes, the 10, but it's a famous 10 to the minus 9. I mean, that's the best we can achieve. And yes. Yes, okay. But you see that so we distinguish, first of all, safety critical and security critical. And according to I mean, if you want to design safety critical, you are focusing on some type of properties, okay? Some type of properties. So safety means that a failure may be catastrophic, a catastrophic threat for human lives, okay? For security critical, so here it's the protection of confidential information. The techniques are very, very different, okay? Security means that you resist to attacks. I'm going to explain this later. So you have critical systems that may be either safety critical or security critical. And then you have mission critical systems. So it's less safe, or so they are qualified for some missions. Sorry. So you understand that these are mission critical, but also the infrastructure in general is considered to be mission critical. And then you have best effort, as I explained. So it's clear that when, okay, the confidence you should have in a rocket should be less than the confidence that you have in a commercial aircraft, okay? And system designers, of course, are aware of this, and there are figures with probabilities about that. Okay, now just to finish about correctness, I would like to say a few words about the complexity you are facing when you are trying to verify a system. So to verify a system, you have, roughly speaking, to go through all the possible states of the system. Okay, not for all kinds of properties. So in some cases, you can be smarter and explore, not visit each state one by one, but visit packets of states. But this does not change anything to this reason. So if I have a system with two states here, so a bit, for instance, or okay, this is on, off, two states. Okay, so these two states, I have to visit the two states. Now if I have two memory cells like that, I have 2 to the 2 states, 3 to the 3 states. And when I have 300 memory elements that whose states can change independently, then this number is of the same order as the magnitude of the visible universe. Okay, so you understand that you have very, very easily you get an explosion, because a combinatorial explosion, what we call state explosion. Of course, we have techniques that are smart, and we can analyze very, very complex systems, but there is a wall for verification. It's clear. Okay. Now, let me talk about basic technologies. So, what we'll have in the future, I've talked already about multi-core systems. So what is a multi-core system? It's, okay, you have on a chip, you have cores, so these are processors, with some simple interconnect. And as I said, you can have hundreds of processors here today. And the problem is how to program them efficiently. Now, I would like to emphasize the fact that we have now multi-core systems is not the consequence of a scientific breakthrough. It's imposed by technology wars. So until now, to simplify things, we've been able to increase the density, to apply Moore's law, to double the density, etc., by having a single big processor on a chip. Now, because of technical problems, we have to, if we want to gain in computing power, we have more transistors on a chip, we have to have smaller processors and to have these structures. And this poses the problem of programming. You remember, should be 20 years ago, 25 years ago, there has been a fashion in computer science. We had massively parallel machines. And at that time, everybody believed that it would be possible to program these machines. There have been startups, companies producing parallel machines. But the result was a failure. We could not program them efficiently. Perhaps we did not invest a lot in research. Why? Because of Moore's law. Because very easily you had the power on a chip, the power of the parallel machines. So, but now, by Moore's law, we are obliged to learn how to program these multi-core systems. And here I let you read some texts that I found in a research note of Gartner, who is an analyst, about the situation in software. I should say that the gains we had in computing come mainly from gains in hardware. Software and programming technology have not changed for many, many years, okay, for decades, okay? And what they say here is that if we don't change the programming technology, then we will hit a wall. And the benefit from Moore's law will not be apparent, visible anymore. Okay, now let's skip to another kind of technologies, sensor networks. You've heard about that. So wireless sensor networks are networks composed of nodes. So the node is just a circuit here where you have actuators, sensors, little computing power, and the possibility also of being autonomous. So you collect, so you have batteries here, and you charge them by using solar energy or something like that. Okay. Now, you can use these nodes to spread them over a field, and they have the capability to communicate with each other. And you see some of them are red because they are active, and others are sleeping just to save energy. Here, it's a military application, but there are other applications of these sensor networks. And they organize themselves in some manner. And the purpose, of course, is here to detect the presence of a vehicle and transmit this. Okay. So using such sensor, of course, you can use sensor networks, wireless sensor networks, to detect fires for forests. You can use them in agriculture in many application areas. But the use of these technologies raises very, very interesting problems of this real-time distributed computing for computer science. Very, very interesting problem. And if we want to use efficiently these technologies, we should solve these problems. Finally, of course, one very important basic technology for the future is the internet and the web. And I'm not going to explain what these are very, very, very complex systems. So the internet is the infrastructure where you have users, you have user services, you have huge networks, servers, and here you run applications in a distributed manner. And the problem is how to, so this is the product of some evolution. And one important question, of course, is how to guarantee security. And I would like to discuss a bit the issue of security for the internet and the web. So security, you understand, is the protection of information from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, etc. And now if I am, say, a user, I would expect, okay, that my system meets all these requirements. I am not going to read all these, but you understand most of them. And security properties, we don't know how to formalize them very well yet, okay? How to express them formally in many areas. For instance, specialists do not agree about what are the correct specifications of an electronic voting machine, but in some countries they are using electronic voting machines, okay? So, for instance, how to guarantee confidentiality. You understand that for credit card transactions, this is very important. Integrity of data, availability, of course, authenticity, etc. Okay? So this is, I think that if we don't solve, guarantee security in the use of the internet, some applications, like the Internet of Things, will not be possible or will not have the impact that we have imagined initially. Let me explain what will be the Internet of Things. I said already perhaps that will be the result of the convergence between embedded systems technologies and the Internet. So the Internet, you know, it's based on a protocol, and for the moment, the use we are doing of this protocol is to get access, or a user gets access to multimedia documents, or it can interact with other users, okay? So you click on a link and you have multimedia documents. Well, now the idea for the Internet of Things is that you can click on a link and have interact with an embedded system. So you have embedded systems at home, you click on a link and you can see what you have in your fridge, for instance. Or you can order your washing machine to start, or you can have access to your factory and see what happens. Now, if we want to have reactivity, it should be possible to guarantee that in the internet, you can, the response to some commands will be given within guaranteed time. Also security problems, if I'm giving an order, I'll give you examples of that. So here I give a list of technical problems that must be solved in order to have the Internet of Things. Consortia in Europe, in the US, and in Asia are working for this. Okay, and one idea is that if we cannot, I mean, if the Internet as it is today is not reliable, not secure enough, then to have specific critical internets for some applications. And some consortia also are working on this. Okay, now let's talk about applications. So applications in transportation systems, I think that a lot has been done for cars to make them safer, more efficient, less polluting, but this is a fact. Now, car manufacturers want to go a step further and to have what they call active safety. So the idea of active safety is to apply the same principles as of brake-by-wire or drive-by-wire that we have applied in avionics. You know that today in a modern aircraft, we apply the principle of fly-by-wire. Between the pilot and the electromechanical parts of the aircraft, you have a computer. So when the pilot gives a command, the computer interprets the command and makes the possible use of the resources of the aircraft and any modern aircraft. The Airbus, they started with the A380 and Boeing with after the 10 years later. So this gave, by the way, an advantage, a competitive advantage to Airbus, the introduction of this fly-by-wire technology. Now, there have been very, very ambitious projects okay, of some car manufacturers to have a computer here and to interpret the command of the driver. And these projects failed for many reasons. One reason is that, okay, just to simplify, it would have cost a lot of money. You cannot have avionics technology in everybody's car today. Also, in the US, they had a very, very ambitious project about how to have automated highways. For instance, in California, they had this project, the PATH project. Perhaps they started this in the beginning of the 90s. The idea is to have driverless cars, so when you enter the highway, the computer takes over, and you have kinds of trains of cars, platoons of cars. And so you enter the highway in San Francisco, and you say, I go to Los Angeles or to Santa Barbara, and you trust your computer, and when you approach the exit, the car will take the right exit, and you will take over in some smooth manner. Okay, these projects have been abandoned for some reason, okay, but they spent a lot of money on this, and for years, people have been believing on this. And also, these projects, I mean, they are still working on active safety, all the big car manufacturers, okay. Now, there are huge possibilities of applications of embedded technologies in health, okay. Of course, here you have a robot that, okay, prevents the surgeon from doing something wrong. A lot of work for brain image analysis, cartography of brain, health monitoring application, so you are doing some physical exercise and your behavior is analyzed. I mean, this is classical. But there are some very interesting applications that cannot have not yet been really accepted as this one. So I know many experimental, many projects on this very simple idea. The idea is that now in hospitals you have elderly people, you have disabled people, and that could have stayed at home, provided there is a good monitoring of their health status, okay? So you have this, this equipment here. You can take the temperature, even have an electrocardiogram or measure blood pressure. You are at home, you are an elderly guy, but somebody can help you. And now you can transmit this data to your medical doctor who is in a hospital, for instance. The idea is very simple, and it interests a lot of the governments and the social insurance organizations. The problem is that this very simple idea cannot be applied because of security reasons. When I transmit, for instance, my temperature or my blood pressure, I have to make sure if I'm using the internet that I am correctly identified as Joseph Sifakis, and also when I am supposed to speak to my doctor, I'm speaking really to my doctor, okay, and not to somebody else. And when I am transmitting my personal data, they are protected, okay? So the doctors, the hospitals did not accept this, okay? And if it is accepted, it would save a lot of money and also improve the comfort of life, the quality of life of many persons. But these projects are not accepted. Another type of applications that are being actively studied is smart grids. I should say something about that. So what's the idea here? The idea is to use internet technologies again to control, to spend, to control the production and the consumption of energy in the best possible manner. You know that in the future, you will be living here, you may have an electrical or hybrid car, and you will have some local production of energy at home, and you may have different energy suppliers. this happened in some European countries. I don't know if this happened already in Italy, but in France now you can have different energy providers, okay? So the question is how to use internet technology to coordinate the consumption of energy. So if I have an intelligent system here, it will say now you can buy power from this provider, okay? Or you can decide to start the washing machine at 3 in the morning because at 3 in the morning the rates are the cheapest, okay, of electricity. There are a lot of projects around that. And of course, there is a global vision people call ambient intelligence, ambient intelligence, meaning that all of the services are interconnected and you have some diffuse intelligence in the network that helps you making the best possible decision and having the best possible quality of life. Okay, if you believe this. Okay, but these are visions that mobilize researchers, of course, and investments. Okay, now let's talk a bit about science, if you are not tired. I would like to talk about now the 3 grand challenges that I see for systems. So as I said, systems are instrumented, interconnected, and intelligent. And from these 3 characteristics, I derive the 3 grand challenges. So one is to marry physicality and computation, to understand how computers interact with their physical environments. What is the global dynamics and how we can study this. The second, for interconnection, this means that complex systems will be built from components, and we should have some solid theory for this. And finally, for intelligence, okay, I don't like this term. I'll talk about adaptivity because intelligence, I don't think we should apply the term intelligence to machines. Okay, now let me explain very quickly the first challenge, marry physicality and computation. As I said, a system is hardware and software. So you have some software running on the system. And as I explained before, when I write software here, I should take care about how these resources are managed here. So here I have, okay, computing time, I have memory, I have power, I have other characteristics. So as I explained, when I write my software here, I should take into account this. And also, of course, I should take into account the properties of the environment. The environment imposes deadlines, for instance, to respond before a given deadline, or you would like to have a certain throughput for a signal. So I think that today we need, when we write the software, to understand how the software interacts with the hardware, and also how the software interacts with the external environment. I don't know whether you figure out what is the challenge that this poses. This means that probably you don't know that, or I did not say that, the models of computation we have today do not take into account physical time. They take into account some logical time. They take into account some logical notion of memory in complex theory, okay? But we have theory that talks about computation without relating it to physical resources and time. And we need to do that. So my vision is that we should enrich computing to integrate methods from electrical engineering and control. This is very important. Now I pass to the second challenge, if you are not too tired. And this is about how to build systems about components. Why we need to build systems out of components? Well, the answer is very simple. In any engineering discipline, you build systems out of components because components means that you are using some work to be done, so better productivity, and also you can have correctness through reuse. The problem is that in computer science, we don't have theories for composing components. For instance, if I am an engineer and build electrical circuits, I have theories about how to build circuits out of resistors, capacitances, inductances. I don't have theory. And I think that what I need is theory that allows, if I have components that are healthy, meet some properties, when I compose them to be able, what we call compositionality in computer science. This is very important. Okay, let me finish by talking about adaptivity, so intelligent systems, because this is the most important grand challenge, in my opinion. So, to start, I would say that in computer science, there have been two visions for intelligent systems. 20 years ago, we had this strong vision of artificial intelligence. So the vision was to build computers that defeat the intelligence of humans, okay? The computer that defeats Kasparov in chess games. Okay, so this vision proved to be not as good or kind of over-optimistic vision, and today the vision is different. Today, intelligence means mainly adaptivity, so that the system's behavior adapts so as to meet given requirements in the presence of uncertainty in the external and execution environment. And this is something I would like to explain a bit better, why we need adaptivity. You know that humans are very adaptive, or living organisms are very, very adaptive, have a very adaptive behavior. Okay, why? Because systems must provide a service meeting given requirements in interaction with uncertain and non-predictable environments. And uncertainty and non-predictability comes from the external physical environment and from the hardware platforms. So if we don't understand how the environment will behave, it's harder to design systems. When we had systems where the only environment was the external user, it was much easier to design, okay? And this has the consequences that for complex systems, it is impossible to predict the design time by a case-by-case analysis of all the critical situations. Let me give you an example. If I am an engineer in avionics, and I design controllers, flight controllers, I care about execution times of instructions. And these execution times may vary between a worst-case execution time and best-case execution time. And this may vary depending on the architecture I have, the position of the data, etc. Now, for reasons I'm not going to explain, in fact, I cannot compute exactly these bounds. I can compute some upper bound for the worst-case execution time. The overall result is that sometimes in critical systems, you may have computers that are 1,000 times or 10,000 times faster than you need. But you are using them just because you cannot estimate exactly this upper bound. Okay. Now, as I said, in systems engineering, you have two diverging design paradigms: critical system engineering and best effort engineering. When I am designing a critical system, like a flight controller, my purpose as an engineer is to keep the system to avoid my system to reach some catastrophic states. Bad states are catastrophic states. And how I do that? Usually you do that by a worst-case analysis, and this leads to over-dimensioned systems. When I am a communications engineer, my system should visit some optima, even at the risk of reaching error states. And of course, if I reach some error state, I know that I can recover from this. And these are two different philosophies today, two different paradigms in system design. And this situation, this separation between critical and best effort design is a cause of some catastrophes in systems industry. Can mention what happened in car industry 5 years ago or so. So in a car, you know that you have more than 50 electronic control units. So in a Mercedes, you can have even 80. So 80 computers that work in parallel. The problem is that all these electronic control units have been designed separately, and you make them cooperate by using networks. The result was surprisingly bad. Why? Because even if each one electronic control unit was very reliable, the interconnect is not reliable enough, and the overall results was not good enough. Now, the idea is to integrate critical and best effort services, especially by using multi-core chips. And the idea is the following: to have a global amount of resources for which you are sure that the critical services will be guaranteed, and you are using these resources firstly for critical services and secondarily for non-critical services. So to give you an example, in an aircraft you have enough computing power to ensure critical services. Why? Because you have many computers that do video streaming. So if you need more computers, just stop some video streaming and use them. But in order to do that, you should have what I call adaptive control, and I would like to explain the principle of adaptive control. So in a system, having adaptive control means that we have a manager that acts as our mind acts. How our mind acts? So our mind combines mainly three functions: planning function, a function of management of objectives, and a learning function. So assume that at some state of my mind, I have to choose between three conflicting objectives, okay, these objectives. Assume that I choose to go to the stadium. Then in that case, I will plan, so how to go from home to the stadium. And now, once I have this experience, then by learning, I will evaluate what I did. That's exactly how your mind works in principle. So that, and if I will learn something and I will modify the parameters I have here to choose my objective. So this principle of adaptive control is used in networks today, in data mining systems, in many areas, in multimedia applications. And I think that this is the key for intelligence. Okay, now my concluding slides. So how computer science is related to other disciplines? This is very, very important. This is a key issue I think we should study in the next years. Okay, physics study phenomenal transformation of matter and energy. This is information, and here we have a combination of physico-chemical phenomena and computing. Of course, mathematics are standing behind all this, and I think if we want to address this challenge of marrying physicality and computation, we should better understand possible interactions between physics and computer science. So physics, I mean the models of physics, physical systems are the environments we are trying to control. And here we have computers, and you see that there are many, many differences. I am not going to analyze all this, but it's important to understand these differences and see how each discipline can be enriched, or how this. You see, for instance, computer science is based on discrete mathematics, logic, and here we are using differential equations, mainly continuous mathematics. Here you have, for classical physics, predictability. Here you don't have predictability. Another interesting question is the relation between artificial intelligence and natural intelligence. Okay, so I think we have to learn a lot by studying how living organisms behave, because living organisms, in fact, combine physical and computational phenomena in a very, very intimate manner. And the results of the computation have a deep impact on the development and evolution. Okay, of course, they share some characteristics, memory. The distinction also between hardware and software is an important one, the use of languages, both for natural and artificial intelligence. But also there are some remarkable differences. For instance, this is a very important difference, robustness of computation. You know that the systems we have in our brains are robust. Robustness means that if I modify my system a bit, then the impact of this modification will be small. But this is not true of programs today. If you change a bit, okay, the results can be huge. So the systems we have are not robust, while the computing systems you have in living organisms are robust. This is something we should better understand if you have questions. But I think that we should better understand these differences and also get inspired. For instance, we can learn how to build the computers that have a different architectural principles that the architectural principles they have today from this. Or you know that now there is a branch of biology called the synthetic biology, where the idea is to build living organisms by composing cells. And these guys are using computer-aided design methods and tools, so technologies we use to build circuits. Also, okay, I think I will not present this. And I would like to finish by saying a few facts, giving a few facts about computer science. I would like to say that computer science is a discipline in its own right. It's not just mathematics. Information is an entity that is distinct from matter and energy. When I discuss with people from other disciplines, physicists, for instance, okay, they don't even understand this, okay? And information is immaterial, but needs physical media for its representation. Computer science is founded on mathematics, but it develops specific theory, and that can be validated experimentally. It's very, very important. It differs from physical sciences. Physical sciences focus on discovering laws that govern the behavior of given universes. Okay, so when you are a physicist, and this is an important difference in the approach they are taking, they have a reality, and they try to analyze the reality, understand the laws, and then of course, you can build artifacts. Okay. While computer science focuses on designing artifacts that are artificial universes meeting given laws. And of course, an important question is if we have built the best possible artificial universes, okay? Computer science proposes a new constructive way of looking at the world, which complements the traditional way that is declarative. So I think that, and this really enriches our way to understand the world. In physics, you reason in terms of differential equations. You are purely declarative. You give laws. While in computer science, we give algorithms, we give programs, okay? have a different approach. So this is a far-reaching body of knowledge that is applicable not only to computers, this you understand, and I think that the complementarity between this complementarity and the need for synthesis that is multidisciplinary opens new perspectives for the progress of human knowledge. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
Maybe on the final statement, that I think very much interested for our computer scientists. And I definitely encourage people to go on. Sorry, maybe it's better.
Thanks for this. I'm Professor Attardi, Department of Informatica, University of Pisa. Thanks for this fascinating talk, which covers the whole spectrum of computer science. And there were lots of things that I would like to discuss. I just touch with the things which struck me. One thing that you said was in the beginning that there was a big step in the evolution of computers when we moved from manual computation, where you just manually performed computation, to automated computation, where you use algorithms or programs to perform computations. And there is one possible evolution to this would be data computation, where it's the data that drives the computation rather than algorithm. And one way to look at this is that when you say that you have programs and a specification, and we derive test data to check whether the programs perform corresponding to the requirements, one approach would be just to reverse this and start that we have tests instead, but huge amounts of tests. And it's having the examples of what we want and infer the programs from the samples. So have the programs that are trained. So we train computers to perform what we want by supplying them huge amounts of examples of what we expect them to do. And in the past, this was impossible, but now it's becoming really feasible, and we see this happening in lots of cases, in lots of examples. We have systems that do fraud detections, they do monitoring of environment. An example of this happened in Fujiyama event, where by collecting quickly the positions of movements of cars, it was possible to figure out which roads were still available, were not broken. No other ways were possible to figure that out. But collecting this large amount of data and movements of cars on the fly this was possible. And there were other examples where this is feasible. So this relates also to the other issue that you mentioned, that we are having so much power in terms of processor multi-core systems, which we don't know really how to use. But if you really have these huge amounts of data and this massive mechanism for machine learning require lots of amount of computing power to be able to train. So that will be another thing where things actually seem to be converging, where you can have machine learning that analyzing huge amounts of data allow systems to learn how to behave. And finally, this connects to what you mentioned in your last slides about adaptive system and learning, where this is exactly one way we can get closer to the way people learn how to behave, just by training them rather than instructing them with a fixed algorithm. So just would like to have your comments on this, if you think this is feasible direction.
Okay, so we can analyze huge data, and okay, to some extent we will be able to do that more efficiently, but still there are some problems that are hard problems, like, for instance, synthesizing algorithms from logical specifications. So to some extent we will be able to do that, and there are some very, very impressive experiments that show that we can do that. Also, the problem with, if we want to have adaptive systems, we should make sure that you can have a very good adaptive control principle, but it may cost, I mean, the overhead due to the control can completely neutralize the benefit you can get. Okay, and I have many examples of principle of adaptive control where you have to compute a lot in order to get some improvement. Okay, I mean, what you gain in improvement is lost in control effort, okay? So, okay, I think that in the future we will make progress, but there are still some hard problems I don't know how to address, and there are some intrinsic limitations. For instance, synthesizing algorithms from declarative specifications. This is a very hard problem. I don't know how to this can be. Yes, but still machine learning, yes. Yes, it's a different problem. Yes, I agree. Okay.
Yeah, but this, I think, is a very interesting thing. It's some kind of fight between science and engineering, in a sense. The fact that you are just there to learn from the world, or rather you are, somebody calls it also a fight between Frege and Nietzsche, in the sense of starting from something which is completely deductive, or somebody instead would come from principle of authority, or anyway from some. So this, I think, is very interesting to be able to get the two things together. For instance, in a cycle of software engineering, typical of software engineering, you have both aspects. You could have a part in which you actually design, and part where you analyze the system that has been generated by you from a learning point of view, which I think is very good. So you have a question out there?
I have a practical question related to the, so first of all, I support completely the idea to view at a systemic high the situation. Clearly, this kind of things requires the unification. Remember, in a different direction, what, for example, Dirac did for unification of quantum mechanics and relativity theory is a huge exercise. But from practical viewpoint, I would like to ask you, I recall in my experience, when someone discussed about computational science. So the idea to inherit in the computer science some kind started from other kind of disciplines, recalls a lot these kind of things. At the end of the story, at the academia level, the problem was how physically is possible to train new minds, to train new students using this kind of approach, because the risk is to build some kind of hybrid animals without a unique direction. So this was a risk in the computational field. So people skilled on parallel computing with a lot skill on mathematics, linear algebra, for example, in order to speed up programs. At the end of the story was some kind of strange animals perceived by industry, for example. So in your experience in France, for example, do you have some experiments implementing this kind of asymptotical ideas you mentioned today?
I would like to make sure I understood the question, okay?
Yes.
Repeat the
Yeah.
question so you're sure.
So what's the question? The question is whether, can you repeat the question in a clear manner?
No, yes. The question is this. I completely support your idea to have a new approach.
Yeah.
What you mentioned before. This new approach requires, in the universities, to teach to the student in a different way.
Okay.
And clearly some kind of synergistic
Yes,
efforts
yes,
between
okay. Now I
different
understand,
components.
Yes.
Practical
Okay,
examples.
so the question is, I'm advocating for an opening of computer science to other disciplines and for enriching. So now if you train, an engineer, and the engineer understands only about programming without understanding anything about hardware, without understanding anything about control, okay, he's not good for systems engineering. And I hope you understand how important is systems engineering. Now, I know universities that made efforts of multidisciplinary synthesis and to propose multidisciplinary curricula. I know that this is not an easy task because you need to have to bring competencies together and also to make people agree on what and to collaborate on what is important and what is less important. But of course, for embedded systems, I know many centers in the US and in Europe that are proposing curricula that cover, okay, this, privilege this system-centric view.
Yeah, well, one issue is the difference between multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, no? Because the danger is that if you are multidisciplinary, you are not deep enough in no one of them. But of course, in a lot of other cases, you actually have to make up joint expertise in order to understand real life. Other questions?
Yes, may I say that, okay, you can have a very, very good programmer that does not understand anything about systems, okay? And he's unable to even to understand what is a reactive machine, and so it's very, very important to give a broader background to students so that they are able to understand the two universes, okay? Because programming is inherently sequential. They don't understand what parallelism means, what is a system.
Yeah, at some extent, this is, I think, a good point of IMT, which is trying to put together computer science and computer engineering towards understanding systems. Rocco, and then.
At some point, toward the end of your talk, you kind of try to contrast physics versus computer science, saying that physics tries to understand the laws of nature, while computer science starts from laws and then it tries to build up things. I think that this is. But then, at the beginning of your presentation, you say that computer science very often, especially theoretical computer science, lags behind engineering. Mm-hmm. Engineering is much, does things that are kind of more powerful than that.
No, I'm saying that it was lagging behind the possibilities that are offered by technology.
Yeah, behind technology,
so
behind technology. Mm-hmm. So isn't that the case then that we try anyway to abstract from technology, write some laws of technology that enables us to use technology better as well? So it is also that it's not that we only write laws, it's only that we deduce some laws, we abstract these laws.
For when you design a system, the laws are the requirements to some extent, okay? So you say, I want a system that behaves like that, like that, like that, okay?
Sure.
Now, another difference between physical systems and computing systems is that in physical systems you have very simple laws, okay? Mm-hmm. And for computing systems you don't have this. For instance, if I throw a stone, it will describe a parabola, okay? This is prescribed by physics, okay? And this is a very simple law. You don't have such a simple law for the evolution of a program, okay?
Sure.
Such a regular law,
No.
okay? And so the two disciplines have very different objects. And of course, the physical universe is the result of some evolution, is given, okay? And we see that it's done to be intelligible, as Einstein used to say, okay? While in computers or computing systems are chaotic systems, okay? If you walk through a program, it's like walking in a world where you can holes, you can have distractions, okay? I mean, it's a very irregular world. And this is essentially due to the discrete nature of computation. I think that we should try to find models of computation that are robust, and robustness, of course, should be related to analog calculus, because discrete computation cannot be robust by its nature. It's very hard to make it robust.
The only point which I add is that sometimes we have this technology, these computers that we use, and sometimes they work, but we don't even know some of the laws that govern them, that govern their interaction. And so it's our duty as computer scientists also to understand some of the laws governing them so that they can be used better. That was a bit my point, and want your comment.
Yes, that's also a very strange phenomenon, because you have some infrastructure that exists, is given, and even the engineers who design them do not understand how they work. So when we talk about, say, security in the internet, first of all, we should understand how the internet works, okay? You should, when you guarantee the safety of a critical system, you build a model and you prove mathematically that this is okay. And this is done just because when they write the critical software, they are cautious enough, so they are carefully write the software so that you can meaningfully extract the model. Who understands how works the operating system of this machine? Even the manufacturer does not understand, okay? I mean, you have evidence about that. I tried many times to understand how an operating system, to build models of operating systems. And once I was discussing with a designer of an operating system, so how to model the interaction of features. And he was unable to explain how it will work, it will behave in some limit cases, okay? So if we don't understand how the systems are built, how do you want us to be able to provide guarantees about their safety, their security? This will never happen unless we change the way we build systems.
Albert.
Hi, so I have a related question actually to the last one. So in the last slide, on the last couple of slides,
Yes.
you're kind of emphasizing that computer science is a discipline,
Yes.
and we should compare it to things like physics and chemistry.
Yes.
But for most of the talk, you talked about technology, and things like, you were emphasizing things like data and computation as things to study. So I'm guessing that it should be independent of technology, right? I mean, this, in some sense, technology, no matter how fast chips get, no matter how technology advances your fridge gets, computer science is somehow independent. If it's a discipline, it should be somehow independent of that.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, in some sense, whether you think that this is a contradiction, or maybe this is a problem
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Okay. So, computer science, abstractly speaking, is the discipline that deals with phenomena of transformation of information. And this is completely distinct from energy and matter. This you understand. So let's take this very general definition. Now, information is immaterial. Information is just a relation, a structure, etc. Okay, you can say about that. So it needs media to become concrete. Okay. So here appears the question of technology. Which media you use, at which speed, etc. Okay? Because information is abstract, is immaterial. Okay? So you can have your theories, some theories can become applicable and interesting because you have the right technology, okay? So technology is very, very important for building artifacts, okay? And some artifacts we have today would not have been possible if we did not have some kind of technology we have today. When I started working on model checking, many people have been laughing, saying, come on, how you can explore, okay, the states cope with state explosion? And this became possible in the middle of the 90s. Okay? So you should not ignore this, and technology will determine, so the use of technology raises some problems that we have not thought about years ago. Okay? So it's important that we take into account. I mean, this is a fact of life, and so computer science is driven by technology. Okay, this is you cannot deny this.
Yeah, but in a lot of cases, also in other areas, you have to make abstractions. After all, real numbers are an abstraction that
Yes.
everybody uses. But
Yes.
real numbers, if you take them in reality, it's very difficult kind of things to handle.
Yes.
And I mean, in computer science, you have concurrency, which is a typical example of a concept which is abstract,
Yes.
but which is able to handle limit cases. I mean, the fact that
Yes.
you don't care about the speed of the processors is a limit point. In fact, is not limit, because typically you want them any speed, but not infinite or zero. So
Yes. But what I'm saying is that when computer science started, the focus was on computing functions. Okay? Nobody cared, or very few people cared about real time. Today, you have computers everywhere that interact with physical environments. This poses urgently a problem of synthesis between computer science and physics. I mean, if you want to understand how it behaves, okay? And this is a result of the progress of technology.
Sure.
Okay?
But maybe my point was that, for example, when I go and see physicists talk about their subject, they don't. I mean, also physics is very important to the, let's say, semiconductor industry.
Yes.
So physicists don't talk about semiconductors. They talk about, how cool is the universe. That's some of the things about the universe.
Yes.
So maybe that was kind of my point. Like the focus of your talk seems to be technology, not the science, and the challenge of technology.
No.
Maybe
But there is an important difference between physical sciences, because they study something that is given, and we are studying something that is we created. And this is also a very, very important.
This is not true, because as you said, computation exists in physics, it exists in chemistry.
Yes, okay, but
It's not true. Computation
yes.
is somehow much more general than just computing.
Yes,
machinery.
okay, yes. Okay,
It's
let
biology,
me.
right? I mean,
Yes, but let me make this distinction that I'm considering as important. Computation is a universal concept. Now, discrete computation is a creation of our mind, completely. Analog computation is something different, okay? What happens in the biosystems is something different. Nothing to do.
Surely biology is discrete computation, no? Proteins.
No, this is the way you interpret what happens in the biological world, okay? But the biological processes are based on analog computation mainly. I'm sure about that. And this gives some properties that, so we should be careful. I was talking about computer science. So computer science, a discrete model, Turing machines, and all this, okay? I'm not sure that all the limitations we have for discrete computing systems hold for other computing systems that are based on analog devices. But then we are using the computing power of something that exists completely different. Don't confuse discrete and analog computing.
other questions, please? Fiorella?
I recently had the chance of going back to a paper, the opening lecture of Tristan Nigard in the IFIP conference of '86, in which he precisely discusses the nature of computer science. And he makes the point that computer science, we should change the name of computer science because it says make a mistake in the identification of the phenomenology of computer science because seems that we are dealing with computers as the phenomenology, while we should consider that the issue of, he suggests, informatics is the
Informatics is a better term.
Okay,
I
but
agree.
then, and so my question is, if you agree with the, it seems to me that in your talk you have a lot in common with that way of thinking, but so which is in your perspective the phenomenology of our field that maybe we should call informatics rather than computer
I
science?
agree that informatics is a better term, but I put, within informatics I put all the discrete computation, the science that deals with discrete computation. If we consider now continuous computation, this is something different, and I think that biological systems everything is a computer. Any physical phenomenon has some computational content. If I consider, for instance, the stone, again, I throw a stone, the stone is a computer. It computes a parabola, okay? So any physical phenomenon has also a computational content. But this is something very, very different, and I think there is a clear border between, discrete computation and continuous computation.
There is the famous comment by Dijkstra that we should not confuse astronomy with the science of telescopes.
Yes, but I don't see where it applies here.
Well, the fact that computer science, science is a little bit like talking about the science of telescope, the science of the instrument, rather than what you are actually studying.
Okay, but this is the established term. At least when you talk about informatics in the US, people understand something very, very different. Okay.
Other questions? So let's have one more and then we finish. Somebody, please.
Why? You want to ask a question?
Yeah. Okay, I think we have.
Okay.
So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.